Pry open your third eye with me, your big-headed know-it-all, polymath Scott Spacky, and guests. Change your mind, change your life. Full episodes, services, knowledge, and all you'll ever need on scottspacky.com and life-mind.com. Are you ready?
Find me where the ocean collides with the sun.
There are 6 questionnaires you can download from the website to determine whether you are emotional or physical sexual personality. 2 for women, 2 for men, and 2 more to assess whether you are literal or inferential in your communication style. While absolutely everyone is either an emotional or a physical personality, predominantly, we all have a percentage of the other within us. As an example, I myself am a 68% emotional sexual male personality. Therefore, 32% of my personality is physical. Most people are in the 80 to 20 percentile range, and dysfunction exists upwards from there. With these questionnaires, you will discover which one you are. Then do the suggestibility questionnaires to discover which type of communication you are, literal or inferential. Then fill them out for your loved one the way you think they would answer, and ask them to fill them out too, score them and compare. This will totally reveal how well you actually know your partner, yourself, and your relationship with them. The loved one you fill out for might be spouse, your lover, your children, your friends, or even business relationships. With this groundbreaking knowledge, we will be able to establish and sustain healthy, harmonious relationships with anyone like never before. Watch or listen to the EMP Personality Podcast series on Pry Open Your Third Eye, streaming everywhere that you podcast. Get the questionnaires at scottspacky.com/pryopen. Welcome to, or welcome back to, Pry Open Your Third Eye with Polymath, Scott Spacky, and Chloe is with us today to do ENP, Emotional and Physical Sexuality, and we're going to today have a lot of fun. The Celebrity Challenge, we're calling it. We're going to use celebrities as templates. Now, I don't really want to say celebrities. Let me change that. Public personalities. Celebrities, I think, is a misnomer. Celebrity is to celebrate, obviously, and just because someone's on TV or is in the media, they're not celebrities. To surprise you, Chloe does not know who I'm going to be presenting today. So what's going to happen is this. We're going to use public personalities as templates to evaluate and try to assess whether they're emotional or physical personalities based on what she learned and what I've discussed in the first episode on this series. Then what I will do as the expert in this area is I will correct and modify that to be able to use these as learning tools. And I've done this a lot over the years with many people, strangers, celebrities, public personalities, etc. This is when I recommend to people watch, like at the shopping malls. That is the most ideal exercise for EMP. Nothing replaces that. Going to an airport, shopping mall, any public place where you can just people watch, that you can really hone your skills. Keep in mind the way we learn is not just by getting it right, but what we get wrong. Because if you're wrong, I will elaborate as to why. And what we're looking for is, what I'm going to be presenting, of course, is trying to present some individuals that maybe aren't that easy to guess, that aren't so obvious. Now, the problem is, first of all, let me begin also by saying that I thought of the reason why most of our episodes and recordings here become a series of sessions. Because I love teaching and I love knowledge so much that no matter what we do, I want to give more. And that's what happens after we did the first one and all the other ones, especially with the New Year's resolution series. That was just supposed to be one thing where I was going to explain the dynamics of it. And I've given that workshop every year for many, many years. But the follow-up to be able to work with individuals, again, I always am thinking when I get done, it's not regret. It's that I'm thinking there's more to learn, there's more to offer, there's more to teach, and it's how can I leave that part out? I got to be very, very selective of what to include, what not to include, and that's hard to have things hit the cutting room floor. So that's why these series evolve, because I love teaching, and I think we all love to get the knowledge. It feels good. It changes our endorphins and gives us a rush, right? Knowledge is a great drug. So we want to do as much as we can, and we're going to try to prove at a pretty fast clip, which we never really do, and get through the Celebrity Challenge, and also, at the very least, begin with the Suggestibility and the questionnaires. Now, the questionnaires, if you remember from part 1 of the series, is that there's the emotional physical sexuality questionnaires to determine your sexuality, and then there's also the suggestibility ones. Big difference. And Chloe's holding up, she's got the forms I gave her some time ago. Now, the reason it's called emotional or physical sexuality, I want to clear that up, which I think should have been more addressed in the first part of this series. Because our sexuality is deeply intertwined with who and what we are. How we perceive sex, and again, our sexuality, it's not the act of sex itself, intercourse. It is our sexuality, how we present ourselves, how we see ourselves, how we see everything around us. As your typical alpha male in many ways, sexually I guess I'm something of an alpha, especially in my youth, and I'm sugarcoating it. Even today, everyone that I see on the planet breaks down instantly into two categories, would or wouldn't. I'm your dirty, shitty male in many ways that way, but it's not. So I'm just telling you that's just kind of gets manufactured in the head. I don't know if women do it too. Some do, some don't, here and there. So the bottom line is this. In some way or another, we all see things through the sexual lenses. And again, it's not just the sexual act itself. It's sexuality, homosexuality, bisexuality, heterosexuality. The sexuality is kind of the cornerstone and part of our personality. It's a big factor of it. That includes asexuals. Now listen, asexuals, people that are indifferent to sex, and right away a lot of people that would hear this would be like, that those people don't exist. I can tell you for a fact they do because I've worked with many of them. Matter of fact, a lot of the couples counseling that I did over my career is people that came to me, men and or women, individuals that came to me and said, I got problems with my marriage because my partner doesn't want to have sex. And when I would meet the partner, it wasn't because they were turned off or not turned on or anything else, it's because they were asexual. It wasn't like that when they first got married because we get charged up. Our endorphins and all those things, the courtship stimulates the center of our brain and our body. But when things evened out and balanced out and things calmed down from the courtship phase, the asexuals became asexual, indifferent to sex. You can imagine, now obviously a big giant chasm in that would be the hypersexual and the asexual. That's never going to work. And so again, as a counselor, my job is to try to bring them both to the center. To bring the one that wants sex and wants more sex, to want and need less, but have the asexual be able to provide that. It's challenging, I can tell you that. So again, the point is in this episode, we're not going to be going to sexuality and all that specifically, I'm just mentioning it, is that it's called sexuality rather than personality. I use personality online for all the things that we're doing because it's just more generic and it's easier and it's safer. But emotional and physical sexuality is what it truly is because we see things through these lenses. Our sexuality has a lot to do with how we perceive things, perceive people, and perceive ourselves, and how we present ourselves. And again, it's not necessarily about getting laid or not getting laid. It is simply about being desirable, being attractive, And attractive, again, covers a whole lot of areas. There's mental, so I'm not even going to go into all that. So that's obvious. I don't want to down talk to anybody. So that being said, we're going to explore a few public personalities. I'm going to present them to Chloe. She's the guinea pig test subject here. And she will guess who is what, emotional or physical personalities, sexualities, and why she thinks they're this or that. Now, the trick is this. As I started to think of who I was going to use, I typed in to Google famous people that are not celebrities, or famous people that are not in showbiz, or famous people that are not entertainers. You notice how I had to already include 3 or 4 to try to disqualify this? Because no matter what I typed in for famous people, all I got was fucking actors and entertainers. That's all I got. That's all Google knows. That's all anybody knows. That's all we see it all.
That's what we think of.
That's right. And the reality is, as I'm racking my brain thinking, no, Google, I want a famous person. Google is like, I don't compute. I don't compute the equation of famous people that aren't in entertainment. That doesn't even compute.
Famous equals entertainment.
And when you go through the list, when you go down the browser screen, you usually find, there used to be dozens and dozens. Now, of course, the AI answers right at the top now. And so then, of course, what's that? Quora, Reddit. I'm sorry. Those are bad resources, man. And I know there may be a lot of people that are going to clue onto this, and hopefully they do, and they reject me now because I said but those are bad resources. I'm not saying that everything that's on Reddit or Quora is wrong. I'm saying that these are regular people, and anyone and everyone, just like YouTube or Twitter, can say whatever the fuck they want, whether they're qualified or not. And I found as an author and as a presenter that once things are out there in print and in recording, people take them more seriously. There's this automatic subconscious acceptance that that must be true. It's like white politicians, how they get away with so much bullshit lies. No one would make that up if it wasn't true. Yes, they would, and they do all the time. It's the wag the dog. They're relying on the fact that you're not automatically going to accept it. They're relying on that. They wouldn't say it if it wasn't true. Yes, they would, and they do.
There's a time and a place for these types of resources. It depends on what you're researching, what you're trying to look up.
Exactly.
And
Look,
what the conversation is about.
And if I want to look up how to select a good cigar, I'm going to go to Quora or Reddit. That's fine. Okay? But if I'm going to look up something philosophical and spiritual, no, do not go there. You want real answers for deeper subjects? Well, come here. That's what Third Eye is about. That's what we're doing here. I don't present anything that's not well-researched and well-found out, and that I've lived and experienced and I've studied as a polymath throughout my life. I'm not going to give you bullshit. So, another subject. We're not going to go down that stinky, smelly rabbit hole.
Who'd you come up with?
I have
Give me
another
one.
euphemism that's coming up that's not rabbit hole when I say stinky. It's stinky and smelly, but we're not going to go there either. So, not to get too graphic here, which we're going to get a little bit with these questionnaires. As I'm saying in the intro to this, the questionnaires are not for children. These are for adults only. They can be, I wouldn't say graphic, but they're very sexual in nature. So hopefully we get to those. Let's begin with some celebrity challenges. So again, the idea here is that I'm going to present some public personalities, not celebrities, public personalities, various ones, and Chloe will guess which ones they are, emotional or physicals, and why. And again, it doesn't really matter if we know them or what they are. We don't need to. We're using them as templates. We're using this as a base of knowledge and study, right? So
Hopefully I know all these
we are
people.
going to begin with some Hollywood people because it's just easier. And the other thing is, because I'm a bit of an older guy, you're a bit younger than me, and everybody else, who knows? What I think of is generational.
I don't know a lot of recent people either, so.
Well, I try
Kind of
to
out of
get,
touch.
I know you're kind of out of the mix on entertainment and pop cultures too. Let's just begin. I tried to think initially of two opposing ones, two different ones, to give you the contrast so you could kind of guess. So, the first one, Johnny Depp.
My instinct tells me he's emotional.
Okay, and why?
Because he's kind of more of an artist type. He's not really, I mean, he lives a public life, but I feel like he's more private. And he chooses his projects carefully, I think. He's picky. He also has the luxury of being able to be picky, I think. But if you look at what he has done, they're more creative and weird and funky, and the characters are not always the most attractive.
All right, that's fine, and I'll elaborate on that. I got some ideas about that. And so now I'll elaborate on his appearance. So what about his appearance supports that he's emotional rather than physical?
I feel like he's
Now,
always wearing black.
Real quick. Hopefully I want people to go back and see the part one of this series before you do this. And if you haven't, because a lot of people are going to say celebrities clickbait, so they're going to come here. And so that's kind of why I did it also, because I think it is a good topic. But again, to understand the basics, generally, physicals are more extroverted and emotionals are more introverted. We're not going to go into all that here in this episode again, because we already did. But generally, the people that are more getting attention and wanting external validation, those are for the physicals, and internal validators are the ones that are emotionals. They validate from within. That's not a superior thing at all. It sounds like it. So, yes, what about his appearance? Is it emotional or physical?
Well, I was saying that I was going to elaborate more on him being an emotional still within that. I don't know, he's got his own style, but it's usually, I feel like he's always wearing black. And he's not super flashy necessarily. I don't know, he could blend into the crowd if he wasn't such a famous face.
All right.
Except for
Now,
those hats.
I'm going to jump in. You're dead ass wrong.
Awesome.
Thank you for being wrong. I didn't want Chloe to be right because she's such a great student of mine that she's right almost all the time. That wouldn't make it very fun. I don't have a lot of fun for that. And so you're dead ass wrong. Here's a guy that is creating an appearance, a physical appearance with wild hair, dreadlocks, eyeliner, tattoos all over. The commercials, everything he does is absolutely a look at me. I am very grandiose. There's nothing subtle about him. So yes, he's in dark clothing. But that's like saying a goth person is automatically emotional because that's what they want to project. But they're really saying, look at me. I'm all alone, like I'm all introverted and shy and quiet. Look at me. How can you miss that? So if you go to a party and somebody is dressed all in black and sitting in the corner by themselves, are they not going to be getting your attention? Are all eyes not going to go to that one person that's doing something completely different, which is sitting in a corner at a party?
It depends on people care or not.
It is a different way of getting attention and validation and getting focus on them. They're clearly not uncomfortable with it because they're actually doing things that cause that to happen. Emotionals are less comfortable with external viewing, observation, and validation. They don't mind it. They're not rejecting it. They're simply not comfortable with it very much. They
You
don't
should
prefer
probably
it.
look these people up and have visuals. I forgot he was covered in tattoos.
That's right. And bling, bling, bling. The guy's got all
It's
these
true.
rings and jewelry. And listen, the last time I've seen him, he was on some, I don't know, Dolce Gabbana, I don't know, some kind of perfume, cologne,
yeah.
whatever commercial. And it was all like, and again, I get that that's a commercial production. But again, we're looking at him how he really is. He's tatted everywhere. He got bling all over the place. We're not just talking a few gold chains. He's got a lot of jewelry, okay? He's very ornamented. That's a very physical trait. And again, I'm not saying good or bad. I'm simply calling it out for what it is. There's nothing subtle about it. And as far as his public persona, I disagree with you completely. That guy is on the goddamn in front of a fucking camera every chance he gets. As far as selecting his roles, Jack Sparrow, a pirate from Pirates of the Caribbean, that's not very subtle. Listen, we're not talking about Daniel Day-Lewis here. Okay, Daniel Day-Lewis is very selective in his role. So selective that he doesn't even take any roles.
You can see how out of touch I am.
He is, in my opinion, Daniel Day-Lewis is one of the greatest actors of all time that ever will be. Absolutely, and he's a method actor, which I really admire, which I respect a lot. Which so when Laurence Olivier, when Dustin Hoffman was trying to do method acting in Marathon Man, which I was just recently watching. And so Dustin Hoffman is like hurting himself doing all this to make himself sweat, and he's running outside and working up a sweat because he's supposed to be like sweaty and or exhausted. And so Laurence Olivier says to him during the shooting, he says, "What are you doing, mate?" And he said, "Well, I'm trying to get into the role." And he goes, "Why don't you just act? Why don't you try acting? You gotta do all that shit." Olivier, of course, also a legend. So the point is that he may be an emotional personality. I'm simply saying that, because since we don't know, I'm simply saying that nothing about him is demonstrating that to us on the outside. If he is, he's hiding it very well. His physical appearance, the roles he selects, his career, all of that. He had the bar over there on Melrose in LA, down where I lived for a while. He was out there all the time, playing guitar, singing in a band, the front man. He's got a big, giant, heavy dose of the look at me's. Big, giant one. So
Johnny Depp, you mean?
Yes. Now, let's search for another one. Again, no comments. I'm not judging anybody. I'm simply drawing. We're using these as templates. So that's one of the reasons I picked them. And I was very fortunate because I thought you were going to get that he was physical, but I'm so glad you got it wrong. So let's try this one.
It's because I think you're trying to trick me.
I know, and we're relying on that too. I know that you think I'm going to be trying to sabotage you, and I absolutely am. But I'm going to go all the way around the circle with that. It's like the poison. Is it in my cup or is it in your cup? You remember that from The Princess Bride?
Oh, I do. I would think that automatically most actors or people that are in the entertainment business are going to be a physical personality. That's my assumption, but I don't necessarily think that's true.
You would think it's a physically sexual dominant field, but it's not really. Because emotionals are driven by what? By the need to succeed and achieve and perform. Not perform as in performance. They have the need to self-validate. Daniel Day-Lewis is the classic example of the emotional. He doesn't give a shit about anything. He's going to live that role. And so he's driven to another octave. Physicals may want more the accolades. The emotionals want to be perfect in their craft. So yes, it would be considered a more physical, sexual-oriented career for sure, because you're going to be on the limelight. But we've also got a lot of celebrities that do shy away from that, and Johnny Depp ain't one of them. But now here's another famous one that I think everyone will pretty much know, and I'm trying to select those. Robert Downey Jr. just won an Oscar in his last role for Oppenheimer. Robert Downey Jr. And also he did Iron Man. So pretty different. He's had a long career.
All right. I see, now I don't like to be wrong.
Spit it out. Spit it out.
I don't like
Go.
to be wrong. I don't know. I think that he's emotional. I do.
Okay. Why?
I don't know. It's part of my gut instinct, I think.
Okay.
But I also think that, I mean, even the Iron Man character, he's supposed to be a big shot superhero, but his character is like, leave me the F alone.
Right. Lives in that big house all by himself and all that, other than
Yeah.
Pepper,
Yeah. So, and I mean, there's, I don't know, he seems a little bit more of a complicated individual.
I like that. Okay, now, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I never met the man in person, but I do know of him very well because one of my long-term clients was the head of the security firm that traveled with him. He's the one that founded the security firm that worked for Robert Downey Jr. full-time. Okay, so I had some insights to him there. Plus, another client was totally unrelated that he went from being a UPS driver to overnight becoming a multimillionaire. Okay, this guy bought Robert Downey Jr.'s house in Malibu with cash. Not this guy, but him and his wife. And so I got a lot of insights to Robert Downey Jr. because of these two people, but I can tell you even without that, yes, he's an emotional personality. Okay, as far as we can tell. He does seem rather introverted. He doesn't do a lot of publicity, not for an actor. Roles don't matter because what you're cast in his role, that's your job, and so you don't really select your roles like that so much. Most actors don't. Otherwise, why the hell would legendary, brilliant actor Robert De Niro do whatever Grandpa? Come on. Come on. He's not selecting that role. You're talking about the guy that did Raging Bull and did Godfather. I don't know if you've ever seen Raging Bull, but he's absolutely fucking amazing in that. And so anyway, not going to go on a different tangent there. So Robert Downey Jr. does seem to be an emotional personality. He is rather subdued, less in the public eye. He is a rather subdued appearance. He's had a very long career. And again, we can't go by the roles, but certainly he does quite well and naturally at I can't remember the guy's name he played in Oppenheimer, but that he won an award for, but he did such a phenomenal, he's a great actor, one of my favorite actors. So, got a lot of range. So, again, what we're seeing is, with his being less in the public eye, which he can certainly be a lot more, and I can tell you from an insider point of view that I wouldn't say he was in trouble for doing less publicity, but he only did what was contractually necessary to do. He didn't do anything more. Depp does more, okay? So let's move on to some other types, okay? Some other public persona. We've used a couple. We're going to keep moving along. Again, we're using just the templates. All right. Now, again, this gets a little generational because I'm a little bit older, but you guys will know who these people are. But I don't know how well you're going to be familiar with them. Steve Martin. Go Steve Martin.
I love Steve Martin.
I do too. I love him. And I of course, grew up watching when I was young on the 70s when he was doing the whole crazy guy thing. It was nuts with the bow and arrow on his head and shit. It was pretty cool. The Jerk is one of my absolute favorite movies that you roll through the entire, and he wrote and he did the whole thing. That was all his whole project.
Great movie.
So
I'm trying not to think too much into this. I mean, it's kind of hard to, when you only see people as a public persona, you don't know someone personally, so it becomes really hard to judge them. I don't know, they're all a guess. Let's say he's more of an emotional.
Okay, that's fine, and why?
He's a comedian, and so I think he tailors his craft. He wants to create a joke or a scene or a movie or a sense that will make people laugh. But I don't think it's just slapstick, silly, physical necessarily.
You have seen The Jerk, right?
Yeah, but
Pretty slapsticky.
That was also part of like our era and our
It
time.
was. And it was the beginning of his career.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
want you to look at his appearance and how he seems to act. That's it.
Well,
Probably
he
seen him on
doesn't.
Saturday Night Live. He's been on like 15 times. So, and so in young and old. So simply based on what he looks like and how you're seeing him act.
I don't
Not
think
act in
he's-
movies. I'm saying how he acts when on TV.
He could be a person in the crowd. If you didn't know
Okay.
him, visually, he looks like your average guy, and he
Okay.
dresses like that.
All right, that's good. Now, are you aware that he and Martin Short are very close friends?
Yeah,
And have been for a
Can
long
tell.
time. Three amigos, when they first kind of started working together, I guess, they're very close. They're on a lot of commercials now together, and so they're very close friends. And let's use him. Martin Short, emotional or physical?
I think that he's a physical.
Okay, and why?
First of all, opposites attract. So, and if they're drawn to each other, just because they're friends doesn't need to mean.
Assuming
that
you're right about
opposites.
Martin being a physical. I mean, an
That's
emotional.
true.
Yeah. But go on.
But
I like where you're going.
he seems a little bit more, I don't know, is gregarious the right word?
Yeah, that'd be a
little
good
bit
word. That's a
bigger.
very good word. Yes.
Even though he's physically small in stature, he takes up more space.
Yes, he does. Okay, so you're correct on both.
Yes!
Steve Martin is definitely more of an emotional personality. He's more subdued. He's more private. He is good at what he does because he is focused on his career as a craft. He wants to succeed for himself. He needs to do a good job and all that. It's not about the attention so much. So he is much more of an emotional personality. The way that he looks, indeed, he stays in pretty good shape. Always has. He dresses, even when he was wearing the goofy white suit, it all matched, right? That's more of the emotional trait, right? And Martin Short, this guy is your loud entertainer. He is the guy when they're both at parties, which I'm sure they have very often. Martin Short is the guy that's running around, dancing and telling jokes and getting everybody moving and doing all this kind of stuff, and Steve Martin is more subdued. Martin Short is absolutely more of a game show kind of host than, and I think he has one, doesn't he? And I think he has one. So they're very different personalities, and they are contrasts. And yes, I do think the opposites attract. I think that's one of the reasons they pair well together on a personal level, why they stayed friends for so long. That indeed, Martin Short to me, honestly, as a more higher emotional personality, Martin Short can be really annoying to me. He's too much. He's just too over the top for me, okay? And Steve Martin, for me, who can be over the top, it's done in a very well-crafted way. He's not just doing it for gratuitously. Whereas Martin Short, to me, is more gratuitous about it. Just look at me, isn't this funny? So, good job. I think you got both of those dead on. Are we correct? Do we know? Well, obviously we don't know them, but the assessment is correct. And if you apply this to other people in the way that you're doing, then you get to learn more about it. Now, let's go away from movie and TV stars. Now, and again, generational thing. Yes, of course, because of your art, I wanted to pick artists. So we'll go there. I wanted to pick people that everyone would know, which is hard to do because, again, I'm not big on the art world, but I know my way around a little bit. So, Picasso. I don't know what you know about him personally, but he was very much in the news and all that. So he was quite visible back then. So we're not talking ancient history like with Van Gogh, which is going to be next. Van Gogh wasn't much in the news because there wasn't any. So Picasso. What is the style of his work in? It's not an abstract. What do we call it?
Cubism?
He invented Cubism. But anyway, go ahead with Picasso. What do you know about him? What do you think he is?
I don't know enough about his life, really.
Oh, okay.
I actually
thought
never
you-
really liked his work.
Okay, why not? That may be your answer. That may be why.
I tend to, I think, judge the famous artists because I think they're all a little overrated. I think it's wonderful to be someone that breaks through cutting edge and like changes art. That's amazing. But I judge people that tend to be the, like, everybody knows Jackson Pollock. Everybody knows Ansel Adams. Everybody knows Picasso. And yes, they're good at their craft, but honestly, I actually don't really care for lots of Pollocks anyway, and his wife was incredible in a lot of ways and
Who is
gets
his
no
wife?
credit. See, I don't even know her name because I'm horrible at names.
I watched the movie with him and with Ed Harris playing the role years ago, and I tell you, prior to that, I thought Pollock was. I was like you. I'm kind of like, what? What is this like shit all over it? Then I saw what he did and how he did it, and I was blown away. And I'm a total Pollock fan now because I learned about that art. And so now Picasso. Let me elaborate. Okay, you don't know anything about him personally. He was a bombastic, bold, giant personality all the time. Big guy, big personality. In the media and stuff as much as he possibly could. He's very much a physical. And his art shows it too. It is definitely weird. There's nothing subtle about it. Okay? So, yeah.
It makes sense to me that if you're going to be such a game changer, that it happening within your lifetime, that
Yeah.
you would
Yeah.
be more of a physical personality. Unlike Van Gogh, who didn't necessarily care to push his own career and wasn't famous until long, long after he was gone.
Yeah, and Van Gogh, it's not that he didn't care to, he was high emotional and obviously very dysfunctional, which is, I mean, I'll get tears. I can't even talk about him because I love him so much. And that his introversion was pathological to the point where it was very dysfunctional, for sure. So it's not that he didn't want to promote himself as an artist. He was with the Impressionist clique at the time in France and in Paris, and they all knew, and they were very envious of him, okay, because of his skill. But they also had nothing to worry about because he could not compete with them. He was not going to go out in the public and do any of those things. He could not promote himself at all. Far too high of an emotional personality. And so Pablo Picasso, on the other hand, and I am with you, I'm not a big fan of his art. It's not my style. I respect what he did, especially in his own lifetime, as you said. That's phenomenal. But personally, that's not my personal style. I don't quite get it, you know. And again, Pollock, I didn't get it either until I watched the movie, and I was like, then I kind of got it. Then I changed everything. Van Gogh, we're talking about polar opposites here. That's kind of why I picked those two. Is Picasso and Van Gogh are virtual polar opposites. Pablo Picasso, there's nothing wrong with him socially or anything at all. He is out there on the front lines and on the headlines all the time. And Van Gogh was completely the opposite. So Picasso was motivated by getting noticed. That's a big driving force behind his art. Van Gogh his primary motivation was simply to do what he thought was beautiful and thought was good. That was all that mattered to him. That's much more of an emotional trait. So, now, how about some authors?
I might know these people even less.
All right, now, again, generational thing. As an author myself, I thought, who can I use contemporarily? I don't have a lot of respect for a lot of contemporary authors. I think most of it is average and okay. Even the best stuff is not legendary. So I'm very selective. I'm very picky. I hold myself to a very high standard as an author. We're not going to use her as an example, but Toni Morrison for me is absolute, like the pinnacle of literary art. Okay, one of the top. Steinbeck and Hemingway. We're going to use those. Do you know much about Hemingway?
A little bit. I actually was watching a part of a documentary on him just the other day.
Okay, well then you know quite a bit. So that'll be all you need.
No, I just know about his early life, really. But I would say, yeah, he's a physical.
Total physical. Okay, but why?
I don't know. I think I learned more about his personal life and his relationships with women, and he had multiple women in his life at one time, and he wanted to make it work with all a threesome, basically.
Yeah.
And his wife was like, "No, you gotta pick."
Yeah.
And she said to him, "Go 3 months without either of us, and then make a decision." And he was in so much pain and so distraught, he couldn't make it through three
No way.
months. And she gave in
why
and
is
was
that?
like, "All right,"
Why can't he go on his own?
because of that external validation.
The
not
external
being there.
validation. He craves it, needs it, and thrives on it. He cannot go without it. And hyper-physical personality cannot go without it. They feel like they're starving and drowning at the same time. They can't go without it. It's essential. So indeed. Now, what we didn't get into too deeply in the first part, which I want to go to in the suggestibility and the questionnaires big time, is that one of the things about physical personalities is that one of the questions that's going to be coming up on the questionnaire is, do you like to have frequent and repeated sex, more often the better. Quantity more than quality. That's a physical trait. They are ready to go very quickly. They're ready to go. They want more and more and more, but it isn't necessarily the best quality, but they are big on quantity. Okay? That's a very physical trait. There's a whole physiological reason for this, how they manufacture and remanufacture and reproduce their own kind of testosterone. So, and in both, women and men, though. So, he was known for this. And he was very, and not only, one of the reasons I wanted to pick authors is because with authors, more than actors, you can't see within their work what they are. And Hemingway was all bombastic and all show. I mean, everything that's, and again, I'm not a Hemingway fan, okay, and it's too much for me. Everything about what he's doing, riding with the bulls, all the things that he did in his life, going out, he was a big bar brawler, always having parties, always getting arrested, getting in all kinds of trouble. He wanted to be in the spotlight, wanted to be in the limelight a lot. So, again, I love that you point out his relationship dynamics, that and clearly he was involved with and attracted to emotional personalities because the woman said, take some time off and go figure it out. That's an emotional trait. They're not so quick to necessarily forgive and forget. They can and they will, but they want to figure things out. They got to get things square. And yet he was like, as you pointed out, which I did not know about any of this, he went into complete atrophy. I can't live without this. And as you point out, it's not that I can't live without you. I can't live without the attention, the love and the admiration. I got to have the affection. I need it, like a drug. So, good choice. There are 6 questionnaires you can download from the website to determine whether you are emotional or physical sexual personality. While absolutely everyone is either an emotional or a physical personality, predominantly, we all have a percentage of the other within us. Get the questionnaires at scottspacky.com/pry-open. And I'm making it a little bit easier on you because I guess I'm going to the extreme opposites, it seems. Steinbeck.
Yeah, I'm going to say emotional just because of the way the game is being played. But
Well,
I don't really know a lot about Steinbeck and his life either. Was Steinbeck Grapes of Wrath, or am I wrong?
Grapes of Wrath.
I do remember Grapes of Wrath, and it's not, it's more like this.
It's very
Deep.
It's very introspective and very philosophical.
Yeah.
Now,
From
let
what
me elaborate
little I
on
can draw
Steinbeck.
for that.
Steinbeck, for me, I can't help but use him because he's my first influence. I began reading Steinbeck when I was a little boy. I mean, I was reading Grapes of Wrath when I was 11. I was reading Grapes of Wrath. That's a pretty big book for an 11-year-old. And because I grew up in San Jose, which is kind of near here, and I was living in Salinas, where he's from, and as a matter of fact, I went and had lunch at his house because they have a little restaurant in there now. And so he's a big legend to me. Probably the first and one of the biggest influence of my writing career is Steinbeck. And indeed, he also had a huge career and didn't need to be in the media. He definitely did. You got to promote your work, even back then. And so he did all that, but only what he had to do. And again, he was a very introverted personality. So good choice, and you got that correct. Now, I'm going to pick, when I get 2 more, I think, that are going to be outside the box. Okay. All right. And these are like so different from each other. I got 2 more. All right. Gandhi.
I think he's a physical personality.
Okay. Now, you partly you're bringing this because you figure I'm tricking you.
No, I do. I think he is.
Okay, why?
Because, he was very famous within his lifetime. He wasn't so much of a spiritual leader as much of a humanitarian, but he put on a spiritual garb to kind of, that could be perceived as either way, as going emotional or physical. But, I don't know, he was small physically, but he was a big personality, I think, and...
But his personality, you say big, he certainly wasn't like a showman. His whole thing was built on the fact that he was this humble guy. You know?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going with my instinct here.
He's not sitting there like Hitler, like, ranting and raving at people. He's not a rebel like that. His is the path of least resistance. He's teaching you to find peace through sit-ins and silent protests, not by raging and fighting. Peaceful protests.
Well, I can't change my answer now.
Well, and you don't need to. He is a physical personality. Okay?
Okay.
First of all, just because he presents as an emotional, because this is his role. Now again, keep in mind, as I said in the first part of this, that as a emotional, introverted personality myself, I don't seem that way to people that meet me because I'm in the public, I speak, I give workshops, I present live, I go on radio, go on TV, but I do this because it helps me with my career, which is about helping people and discovering things. Very cerebral. It's not about the intention. That's a part of the thing that comes along with it that I'd rather not have, but I don't necessarily present that. So I can present well and be comfortable in public because I need to, because what's more important to me is achieving in my career. That's personal endeavor. And so Gandhi, he is naturally who he was. He wasn't faking anything, but indeed, he certainly wasn't shying away from the limelight at all. And he used that to his advantage. The more attention he got, the more he could, especially with his fasting, the more attention he got, the more he could drive his point home. And so he is, the reason I kind of picked him is because he's kind of hard to resist with the contrast between being such a high physical personality and using an emotional personality as part of his agenda. Now, privately, there's a lot of rumor about his philandering. That was pretty well founded, which I happen to accept some of that. I don't know how much of it is that. I don't know. I don't want to judge the man at all. He is a hero of mine in many ways. And I agree with you, by the way, that he's not a spiritual personality. He is a political and a social one, for sure. He's a social advocate and a social protester, and I think he did wonderful things, but not a spiritual personality. He used that to further his agenda. That's a very physical personality trait that he had. And so I think you got that dead on. That's correct. Now, here's another one I'm going to throw at you. Einstein.
I think he's emotional.
All right. Why?
I mean, he was all about his mind.
Keep in mind, either personality can go into any field because that's what they're drawn to.
Right, but I mean, it was his tenacity to like stick with things for the sake of the problem and solving the problem, not for the sake of being popular. And I feel like he didn't care for being in the limelight. I don't know if that was true or not. I feel like I heard that somewhere.
What about that hair?
We can't help our hair.
Yeah, you can't go to the barber.
Maybe he just didn't care.
Okay, and is that emotional or physical?
To not care?
Maybe you're right. Maybe he just was indifferent about his appearance, so he didn't care. So he let it be what it is. So, but is that an emotional trait or physical trait to not care?
I think to be indifferent about your physical appearance would be emotional. To not care if the type of attention you're getting would be physical. So it.
Now, this is a great template to use to learn from. We don't know, obviously, again, we never met the man, but his public persona is definitely a physical. Okay? The hair alone, he could have gone to a barber, had it dyed. There are many things he could have done, and he had that shock of hair. Okay? And clearly, that's one of the things he's most famous for. And one of the most famous series of photos of him sticking out his tongue. Right? While he wasn't chasing the limelight, his work brought that to him, and he certainly didn't shy away from it. So he was quite a bit in the public eye. But again, we're talking about a scientist, not an entertainer. Okay? So it's not really going to further his career, and yet he's quite a bit in the public. And again, the way he looks and the way he presents himself, those are very physical traits. Now, again, there's a lot of things he could have done that's different. We can't assess this by the field of work that he chooses. That's what he was, that's what he is, that's what he was led to be a scientist and be a physicist and all the things that he did. Anybody, physical or emotionals, will maybe be more drawn to certain career fields, but we're still all going to have our organic and innate kind of tendencies that may contrast that. So again, we don't know, but what we can see, there's enough physical traits about him, the way he's presented himself through his lifetime, and the way he physically appeared, that indicates he'd be more physical. And once again, He has, and I didn't go into this well before, and I only mentioned it even today, that he also had a very rather controversial, again, myth or legend, I don't know, about being somewhat of a philanderer. Like Hemingway. Okay, he's kind of known for that. So, and again, I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know. I'm simply saying that it's out there. Now, on that subject, which should be covered more in the first part of this, on that subject, I can tell you this. Who, out of the two that you know, what you know of emotional and physical, out of the two of them, which ones are more likely to have infidelity and cheat?
Between Gandhi and Albert Einstein?
No, between physical and emotionals.
Oh.
No, not Gandhi and Einstein. No. That cracks me up.
That's a funny comparison. I would say, it depends on what's driving the infidelity, I think.
Let me give you some clues, okay? Not clues, but let me give you a little bit more details. Physical sexuals, again, it's about quantity, not necessarily quality. They want physical validation. They want and thrive on that. So the sexual experience for them is a form of validation. It's not a form of pleasure so much as a form of validation. When somebody has sex with them, they're feeling, this person likes me. I'm getting validated in the most highest form.
So, I mean, my instinct was to say physicals because of the validation and also because their priorities generally. Sex is up on the top of the list for physicals, whereas for emotionals, it's not. It's more about relationships and connections. And this is, again, a generalization, but and that the relationship and sex is so closely tied for physicals that if you're not receiving it in your own relationship, you're not getting that validation, you're going to be seeking that elsewhere.
Good answers. Now, a lot of overlapping areas here. Indeed, physical personalities may have a higher probability to be insincere in their sexual relationship, being committed. However, they also are far more devoted to those who do validate them. They're far more committed to that. Whereas emotional personalities, again, they're processing everything through their internal combustion, their internal perceptions, whatever they think is real. They don't give a shit what anybody else is giving them. They need that.
They do what they want.
They do what they want. Physical do too, but again, they're driven by different motives. So while physical personalities on the surface seem to be more the ones that would be more the type that would be philanderers, they're actually typically not. Because they're so afraid of losing and being deprived of the validation that they need from their home. And again, Hemingway is the example you gave where he said he couldn't take it anymore because he needed the validation. So his motives were not what he's saying. He's saying, I can't live without both of you. No, he can't live without the validation. But the fact is he can't live without it. So indeed, physicals throughout my career are far more likely to be the ones who have infidelity on their part of the relationship. But emotionals are pretty notorious for it too, just for different reasons. Physicals want the validation. They want the physical connection. It doesn't mean much to them. Literally, the affair to them is like whatever. It's not a bind. It's not nothing emotional involved. Emotional, on the other hand, they're the ones that are having affairs that are far more emotionally intertwined. Much more at stake. Much more painful to be cheated on by someone on that level.
Well, I was just thinking about that. The concept of being cheated on, not necessarily in a physical way, but in an emotional way.
Yeah. Now,
and that you're outsourcing from whatever your committed relationship is, and it might not be that you're having sex, but you're receiving connection or attention from someone else, and it's still undermining the relationship, even though it's not sexual in nature.
And keep in mind, opposites attract. This means that most of the time, in a healthy situation, physicals will be drawn to and become married to emotionals, and vice versa. Therefore, who is going to deprive a physical of the physical validation and affection that they need? Emotionals. They create leverage. Now I'm going outside from what we learned earlier. I'm giving you a much deeper layer that's more of an advanced layer. This is emotional physical 201 rather than just 101. Emotionals establish more power and leverage in a relationship by granting and depriving attention and validation. When they figure out that the physical personality that they're involved with thrives on and craves and requires their validation, then they can dole it out or withdraw it as needed to get what they want. Some emotionals can be very, very cruel by depriving their partners of validation, which would be so easy for them to give. So many marriages that I fixed, I did that through the emotional personalities, by making them realize, your physical personality would calm the fuck down with their constant seeking and searching and pleading for attention if you just gave them some. What happened when the child is throwing a tantrum? They want attention, right? Good or bad is not the point. Bad attention is better than no attention. Emotionals are notorious for giving you no attention. Indifference is the worst poison to a physical. Hate me if you want, love me if you want, but don't ignore me. Oh my God, that shows that I don't matter at all. Again, bad press is better than no press. Emotionals, when they figure it out, they can often deprive the physical of affection and attention and validation, which will indeed cause the physical to go out and have an affair, okay? Because they need that. And then, of course, they're the villain in this scenario. The emotionals will pretty much kind of force them into it, not literally, but figuratively, pretty much force them into it, and they're the ones that are now the villain. Now it's all your fault. So now I get to end it justifiably without any guilt because you're the one that cheated on me. And so many times, we hear this a lot, that people want to say, I feel like they made me do it. That can't be said in this culture. Bottom line is you still have the right to say yes or no. You still have the right to do what's correct and what's right, what you took a promise and an oath for. You do, and I hold you accountable to that, for sure. When you take that oath and you take that vow, when you get married and all that, then that's gospel. You don't change that. Somebody can force you to it. And even though the emotionals are not literally thinking to themselves, I'm going to force them to cheat by depriving them of what they want and need, subconsciously, that's indeed what they're often doing.
Takes two to make a relationship, make or break it.
That's right. And so again, when I'm fixing relationships and I have a physical that's in need of validation, and the more you deprive them of it, the more they're going to act up and try to get it. They'll set the goddamn house on fire. If you don't give it to them, what's a child going to do when you're ignoring their tantrum? Are they going to calm down because you said calm down? No, they're going to ramp it up even more. They're going to be louder and more breakable and more damaging. They're going to be much worse, right? The more you tell, the more you deprive them of attention, the more they're going to seek it in a more strenuous way. So, physicals are the same way. When emotionals are depriving them of attention and validation, physicals will ramp it up. So my goal, my strategy as a counselor, as the family and marriage counselor, which worked like a charm, I was able to save marriages that nobody else could. I can't tell you how many great moments and events that I've had with couples that all was lost. They've been to marriage therapists, they've been to all of that, and I was able to solve it very soon. By getting the physical personality to calm the fuck down. Stop begging and pleading and being so desperate for attention, which they can't naturally do. That goes against everything they believe in, and it takes over their mind. They can't just decide not to be that way. They're upset and they're starving. They're going to have a reaction to that. And I'm going to make them conscious of this. Meanwhile, I go to the emotional and say, you know what? Why don't you just give them a little attention, get them to calm down. Give them a little attention and watch them calm down and bother you less. Watch it happen. I'd get them to try it. Sure enough, they come back in the next week and be like, oh my God, that fucking works. Oh my God. Like they're not so bad anymore. I'm like, yeah, when you feed them, they stop being hungry. Instead of just holding out the cookies and saying, here it is over here, you can't have it though. And I'm the owner of it. You can't have it. Give it to them. Let's face it. Yeah, but it's so annoying when they need that they're just for attention. I go, I know it's annoying. Okay? But you love them and everybody's different. Okay? So you may not need that, but they do. And you know what? You know what's also annoying to them? How standoffish and distant you are. How inaccessible you are. How unapproachable you are. That's hard for them. Do you realize that you won't give attention, that you're always kind of being in your own way, in your own space? That's hard for them. I'm trying to tell them to tolerate them and give you your space. You've got to meet in the middle. Give them some attention so I can get them to back off and not need it so much. And they'll give you your space. Give them a little attention, then go get your space. Okay? Once you get some space, then come back and give some attention. Because they're going to need every once in a while. They're like heroin addicts. They're going to need a steady fix. Regularly and routinely. I know it's annoying, but you got to do it because it's only going to become more annoying if you don't. Again, the physicals, they can't get enough. Yeah, they give me some attention, but so it's like little table scraps. I need more. Well, you can get a little bit more by stop needing it so much. Give them their space. They'll come around. They'll automatically respond to this. This is the game changer of the physical and emotional relationship dynamics. Give them what they need. Physicals, give your partner some space, some personal space. Give them some distance and watch them come to you because they'll miss you. Because they have none of your qualities. They have none of the extroversion. They don't have any of that. If they want it, they got to come to you. Give them their space. Emotionals, come out of the corner, come out of the room, come out of the darkness, and give them some attention for God's sakes. Give them some validation. It ain't going to hurt you. It's not going to kill you. Yes, it's disgusting in some ways. It's like, oh, that's so annoying. Complaining to our natural reaction when somebody seeks us and when someone is desperate for attention is to deprive them of it. That's our natural reaction, especially emotionals. Physicals, they all compete. Whoever's getting attention, I want more. No, I want more. No, I want more. Emotionals, the moment it happens, they're just like, you know what? I'm not giving anybody anything. We're so busy depriving people of what they want from us. We're wondering why the marriages and why the family systems aren't working. And I say family system because this is not just between lovers and married couples. Your children, your neighbors, your acquaintances, everyone you meet is functioning on this level. They want something from you. They either want their space or they want attention. Whatever they want, give it to them. Watch them calm down. Watch them be putty in your hands when you give them what they want. And then do it smartly. Learn how to do it in the right doses. As an emotional, my natural tendency is to deprive physicals of attention. It's my natural automatic disposition. Happens automatically. I have to catch it. Otherwise I'm like, son of a bitch. Like I'm just being mean now, right? And so I've got to go the other way. And I have to learn how to dole it out properly. Give it to them and then also dial it back so they want more. Because the reality is, I don't just want them wanting validation. The dirty little secret to me is that I want them wanting my validation. The emotional personalities, they may be annoyed by it, but they want the fact that you want their validation. That validates them from the inside. Because you need their validation to survive. That validates them. So there is a healthy reciprocation that can take place, right? When we apply this properly. Make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Now, I'm going to go away from celebrities and public personalities and throw you a total loop. Surprise! I want you to think of someone that you know, that you're close to. Tell me what they are and why. I don't know the people that you're going to refer to. Doesn't matter. It's a learning tool to be able to use somebody you know and understand why. And again, I can't be right or wrong because I don't know them. I've never seen them. But based on what you tell me, I'm going to add more dimension and more spin to this so you can get a broader view of it. So consider both angles.
Okay. I don't have a lot of friends.
You're an emotional personality. Listen,
Okay.
let me jump on that. Emotional personalities. Physicals want to be the life of the party. They like, and we did go over this in part 1, social interactions. The bigger the better, the more the merrier. Emotionals, we're far more interested in the more intimate one-on-one dynamics than we are the groups. Which is why, again, I may not have a lot of friends, but the ones I have are like best friends. I literally am the best friend, soulmate type friend to several people, but not a lot of people. Just the ones that I am close to, many of the people that I'm close to, and even my clients. And many of my clients, they feel that I exist just for them. And I used to joke and say, yeah, think of me as your fire extinguisher. When you're in emergency, I exist for you. I'm in a little glass case and I exist just for you, nobody else. They know technically it's not true, that I have a lot of other clients, a lot of people that I see, but it's not how I treat them. When we're involved with each other, you're the only thing that matters. I give you all my attention. So.
Okay. My very good friend. I think she's more of an emotional, because I know how much of a deep thinker that she really is, and that she can be social, but it's usually because she's inspired by people and their stories and their personal stories. And I know she spends a lot of time alone and values her alone time.
So when she has a lot of alone time and she's not wishing for it to end, she's comfortable with it. She's comfortable with her alone time.
Yeah,
There's the
very
difference.
much so.
Lots of people can spend alone time. I mean, obviously, working with dysfunction, people's lives are in disrepair. I might meet a lot of physicals that are spending a lot of alone time. That's part of why they're coming to see me because they feel very lonely. But again, it's like even though I spend a lot of my time alone as an emotional personality, I'm comfortable with that. It's not physical.
I think she does well from it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So again, which wasn't gone over well enough in part one of this, I mentioned that physicals, when they're in social settings, get energized from that. Whereas emotionals, we get drained from that. So in other words, going to a social environment, physicals get more energized. They want to stay up late. They're getting more charged the longer it goes on. They're the ones that want to rock the night away. Emotionals, we have a time limit. Literally, my timer's ticking the moment I get into a social situation. I can handle it and I can be very energized. But eventually, I know where it's going. Eventually, I'm going to run out and I'm like, I got to go. I need some private time. I need some solo time. I got to get away from this. Physical is the exact opposite. It's giving them energy. So, and again, there's that dynamic. From what you're saying so far, you seem absolutely accurate. And the telltale signs there are that the fact that she not only spends time alone, but she does this purposefully and decidedly. She chooses that. She prefers it many times. And again, it's not that black and white. Emotionals could be considered introverts, and we can look at the extreme case of that. But again, I'm an emotional personality. There's no doubt about that. And yet I'm very social. And at times, I need sociability. Sometimes I'll go to the store because I live alone. Sometimes I go to the store and go in public places simply because I need to interact with other people. It's better for me, and it's something that I crave, something I need. Now, as an emotional, I'm satisfied very quickly. As we often have joked around, you've heard me joke around going to the store. 10 minutes there, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm full. I got all my people interactions I need for a while now. See you next month. I'm good. Whereas the physical personality is like, I need more of that. I'm going to go to another store. I'm going to another store. Go to another place. So, again, it's what energizes us, what fills us up, what gives us the energy to keep doing all this. All right?
And that can vary for me as well. I mean, I do spend a lot of time alone. Even if I'm around other people, I'm kind of in my own head and in my own space. And or withdraw. I remember when I was in college and living with a handful of close friends, and we would all be hanging around the kitchen table every night, maybe like 5 or 6 of us, and they used to joke that I would just disappear for a while. I'd be like, oh, Chloe's just gone. And I might have just run up to my room for a second to grab something, but then I stay up there for a while.
So now you see that what I'm saying to you is really what you're doing to maintain your sociability, you're kind of preserving it, protecting it. You know, if I overdose on this, I won't have anything left. So I'm going to go get some alone time for a few minutes, and then I'm going to come back.
I didn't do it on purpose. And I felt like I needed to...
Not consciously, but subconsciously you were. Subconsciously, right. You were valuing the social experience and you wanted more of it, but so you were preserving it, you were prolonging it by being able to do it. And again, I'm similar. Christmas at the family's house. I have a very small family, and when I was involved with my long-term partner, she had a pretty large family. Christmas was always at their mother's house. The whole family would come. I had it paced out. She was a physical, I'm an emotional, all right? She likes all that social stuff, and she liked the family and all that. So we had it all worked out. I say, I'm going to show up late, and I'm going to leave early. You can go there early, you can stay late, whatever you want. I'm going to show up late and leave early, and occasionally I might even break out. If your mom needs anything from the store, like some rolls or some butter, I'm going to be the guy that volunteers to go. So I can get some space between me and the crowd, and I can keep going. We had a perfect system. Show up late, leave early. She would show up on time or even early, and I would, oh, where's Scott? How come he's not here yet? Well, he'll be here. And they know what I was doing for a career, so I always had that building. Well, he's helping somebody, you know? So they wouldn't get down on me that I'm just avoiding it. And I left early because when I hit that wall, then anything you say, I'm not listening to you anymore. It's time for me to go. I've hit the wall. I'm burned out. I'm done the social thing. I've tapped out.
But let's clarify this, because physical personality does not equal extrovert. And
Not necessarily.
emotional does not equal introvert.
Not necessarily.
So what about the physical personality that will tap out? It's like,
Well,
or they got to be in the mood, just
let
like
me
me. Sometimes I'm super social, sometimes I'm
right.
not.
But keep in mind, none of us are 100% physical or 100% emotional. We are all a blend of both. So indeed, as we've already talked about, I don't think we need to go into it much because we've already covered it pretty well, that we're all going to be a little bit of both depending on our mood and space, depending on the astrological dynamics in the sky, whatever, where our physical side comes out, our emotional side comes out, or whatever. So indeed, physicals are not non-stop, I need validation, I need to be around people. The ones that do, there are those personalities. They're not healthy, okay? They got traumas, they got all kinds of other shit going on that's driving that needs to be extreme. Again, keep in mind that as we talk about the percentages, which we're going to get into in the questionnaires, that anybody that's 80% or more is in the unhealthy ranges. 70% of a personality type is pretty healthy. Anything below that, that's almost unheard of. And again, I have the advantage. I'm in the mid-60s of emotional, which means I am an emotional personality, and I prefer that. And I definitely have my higher points, depending on the mood, depending on the day. But again, I can become more physical when I need to. I have versatility, most people don't. I can choose to be one or the other, based on my needs. And again, as an emotional, I'm driven by achieving what is important to me, whatever that may be. So I can become very social because that furthers my emotional agenda, which is to succeed. My career as a counselor, I'm social all the time. I was there for 10 hours a day talking to people. That's pretty physical, but it's on my terms. I'm talking about cerebral things, deep things. It wasn't chit-chat, wasn't superficial. It was conceptual. So I'm there socializing all day long for 8, 10 hours a day, which is a lot for me. But it's one-on-one, not a group full of people. When I had workshops, hour and a half, maybe 2 at the tops, when there's a room full of people. And even that, I'm feeling it, like it's draining me,
Are we transitioning into some questionnaire time?
I think we can introduce it where the questionnaires are simply yes or no questions. They're very visceral. They're very telling. They're very surprising in many ways, and they are dead on accurate. I can tell you when you score it up, it's a flawless system. Now keep in mind, I'll give you this disclaimer. As I mentioned, John Kappas, who founded this system, he's a high emotional personality. So high of an emotional personality that he does not and did not elaborate well on things. High emotionals have a tendency to be very economical in with their communication. They're going to tell you what you need to know, and that's about it. No fluff. Okay? Now.
I add a lot of fluff.
Huh?
I can add fluff.
Yeah. And we can both do this, and yet we're emotional. But this is partly because, again, for me personally, harder for me to do. I can do it, but to interact with it, I'm doing it because I'm trying to serve a bigger, grander agenda. That's important to me. So my point is that John Kappas, when he formulated these questions, as accurate as they are, they're very cut and dry. And again, the emotional, physical, suggestibility personality book that he wrote, called Relationship Strategies, E&P, the Relationship Strategies. It's about this thick. It's a very thin book. 150 pages, maybe, okay? It's very accurate, but I realize as I'm reading it, even way back when we were first beginning this, there's going to be more to this. He's very cut and dry, very to the point, and doesn't elaborate much, and doesn't have any shades of it. And so, again, I say that I stood on the shoulders of giants. I did not invent this, but I know far more about it than John Kappas does. That's because I learned from him. I was able to take everything he taught and expand it even more. So much of what I'm giving you today is not in the book. The book is very cut and dry. The questionnaire is very cut and dry, but the questionnaire is dead accurate. So there's a reason for this. The question on the questionnaire need to be yes or no answers. And everyone, I guarantee you, when you answer them, which you already did, when you do this, you're not going to want to give yes or no answers to most of them. You're going to want to say yes, but, no, but, well, kinda, well, yeah, sorta, well, also, no. They're yes or no for a reason. And that's very difficult to do. And as the guy giving the questions, especially when I'm doing hypnotherapy, because I got to plow through these things in a hypnotherapy session, like, quick as I get them hypnotized. It's part of their induction. The questionnaires are part of the induction, by the way. The suggestibility questions are part of the induction. One of the ways that I am inducing somebody into hypnosis is by giving the questionnaires. Okay? Induction is challenging as a hypnotherapist. Not challenging. Well, it is challenging. The induction, the initial hypnotherapy session with the client, it'll take me 30 to 40 minutes for a hypnotherapy session. Maybe a little bit more even, because a lot of it's induction. Once I do that, at the return trips, 20 minutes tops. No more induction. That's done. That's permanent. All I got to do is pretty much count down, snap my fingers, and I got them. Okay? But the first time I'll get to induce them slowly, based on their suggestibility, I get to know their suggestibility, which is through the questionnaires, partly. And of course, now I know it. So, again, the point is that, I'll elaborate then as we do these, that the questionnaires, they're very cut and dry for a good reason. And John Kappas is classic with this. He was so highly emotional, he's just very to the point and no fluff at all. Again, the book is this thick. If I wrote that book, it would be 3 times that. Not because it's fluff, but because there's layers and shades and nuances to what he taught that I was able to elaborate on because of what he gave me. I built upon it. Stood on the shoulders of giants. I'm a Jungian rather than a Freudian. But let's face it. Carl Jung stood on Freud's shoulders. Jung was able to develop so much more than what Freud did because he was basing on what Freud already did. You know? Here's the bricks and mortar, and here's some other stuff. Now you know what you can do with it. You know? I've given you the basics. I've given you all that. But without that, you ain't building shit. You know? I know way more about EMP than John Kappas did, but that's because of what he taught me, because I was able to build on what he presented. Because before him, I didn't know anything about it. Didn't know, not one thing. So, I'll wrap it up with this. I'll be telling you that, again, they're yes or no questions. We got 2 on female sexuality, 2 on male sexuality, and 2 on suggestibility. There isn't a difference between male and female suggestibility. That's just the way we import information. Sexuality, there's a female one and a male one. And I think you asked a very good question yesterday, or part 1 the other day, which was, what about people that are not necessarily male or female? And I said to you, doesn't matter. This is not gender-based. It's emotional, physical, personality, and sexuality. It's not gender-based. So you're either one or the other, and that's going to hold true. All right?
So you should fill out all 4 in that case.
Yes. Keep in mind that usually when I'm counseling a marriage, I'm seeing one person, not 2. I want the individual session to begin with. The only one person is usually coming and reaching out to me. And their other partner is usually resistant to that. And even when they do want to come together, I don't see them together. I see them privately and then occasionally together. So typically I'm seeing one or both of them every week, and then I'm seeing the 2 of them in a joint session, a group session, once every 3 weeks, maybe once a month. That's the best way to do it. Because people are not honest with themselves when the other person's in the room. You're not getting the true answers. You're getting the colored version of that because the person's in the room. So I learned early on to see people individually and privately, because I tell you, what they tell you in front of their partner is night and day different than what they tell you in private when they're alone. Way different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that goes for any relationship.
Right. I mean, you cannot treat a marriage by seeing people in a group session. You can't. It's some very generic and bland things you can, but you're not going to solve anything big. And so again, let's say I'm seeing only one person, and I would introduce EMP, and they'd be blown away and be like, oh my God, this explains so much. And I'm giving them exercise to do at home, and they're changing things, and their partner doesn't even know about it. They don't even know it exists sometimes. And they're changing things. They change the dynamics at home already. They come back in the session and they're like, this is unbelievable, how it's changing things. Do the questionnaires. I'd say take the questionnaires. If it's a woman, I'm saying do both of them and give those to me. And then also fill out the one for your partner the way you think they would answer. Okay? That is literally in the book that says you should take the questionnaire for yourself and then also fill the questionnaire for your partner as you think they would answer. And again, male or female. If it's a homosexual couple, which one should they do? Whichever one you think, whatever you identify as. Typically in most homosexual relationships, we have roles. One's a more male role, one's a more female role. That's typically the way it is. So pick those. And suggestibility, again, answer them all for yourself, completely honest and accurately, and then also answer them as you think your partner would answer. Subjectively, not the way you want them to answer, but the way you think they would actually answer. And that takes a lot of honesty, a lot of sincerity, a lot of transparency for yourself and for what you think of them. Because it's almost impossible to be objective and answer these questions the way we think they would without adding in what we would want them to answer.
Of course.
I know when somebody's bringing these questionnaires to me and they're saying, here's one for my partner, but I think they would answer, I'm already taking about 30% out of that, knowing that 30% at least is them what they would want the person to answer. It's not accurate. It's not reliable. Private sessions, I'm getting way more honestly. And I'm having to read between the lines. What they're telling me about themselves and their partner is one thing. Then their partner comes in, tells me, and I'm getting two totally different stories. I'm like, this is like night and day. Do you guys even know each other? Because you're telling me completely different opposite stories. And then my job is I've got to find the middle ground between the two of them. Part of what both of them are saying is true, and a lot of what they're saying is bullshit. But part of both what they're saying is true, and I've got to find which ones are accurate, which ones start to line up. Questionnaires will help you do some of that. It's a fun exercise. What I would like to do is, I like to go with every question, but I can tell you again, as a counselor, I did not do that. I didn't need to. As I get more proficient in this, especially with suggestibility, before I hypnotize somebody, I could simply ask them a handful of questions, 4 or 5 of them, simply to get a real beat on their suggestibility, and then also to use that as an induction, because I'm using the question as a form of the induction. In other words, by the time I begin to hypnotize them, I'm already got them half hypnotized, but through the questions. Now, that's not just because of the questions themselves, that's because about how I ask them and the way I do that. So I'm not telling you that if you answer these questions, you're going to become hypnotized. Don't worry about that.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Well, that was fun and a little stressful. I don't like to be wrong.
That's a very emotional trait. You're very driven. It's not that you mind somebody else telling you may be wrong. It's that you don't like to be wrong, and a person is like, no, I don't want to be wrong. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I don't care if they think I want to be right. I want it because I want to know shit.
Well, and also if I'm wrong, I'm the one that wants to say, oh, I was wrong. I know I was wrong instead of somebody else telling me I'm wrong.
And there's the physical side. That's the physical aspect of that, right? So you see that?
No.
So you just learned something. There's the internal part where I need to be right because I need to rely on my knowledge for me. Then there's the external part where I also do not enjoy people telling me that I'm wrong. So again, we see in everything, if you get these lenses on for a while, you can have fun breaking down the entire world and every interaction you have in emotional and physical. Every one of them. Now, I'm not saying go on being neurotic and start evaluating everything through these lenses, but temporarily, it's a fun thing to do. You will learn so much and so fast, and again, eventually, put it aside. It becomes a natural part of your thinking. It's a natural part of your assessment of things. I don't break everything down emotionally and physically in my everyday life all the time anymore. I'm not in private practice full time. But it happens automatically. If I want to, I can tap into it. It's already kind of going on. And I'm very rarely nowadays am I actually thinking about it and relying on it because I don't really need to so much because I'm not in that work. But if I do need to, it's already there. And again, my mind's automatically doing it on its own whether I'm paying attention to it or not. So we'll have some fun with it. Join us for the next part and we'll do the questionnaires and we'll talk about suggestibility, how to import and export information. Game changer for all relationships. Okay? We'll wrap it up here.
Thanks, everybody.
Keep your third eye open. There are 6 questionnaires you can download from the website to determine whether you are emotional or physical sexual personality. 2 for women, 2 for men, and 2 more to assess whether you are literal or inferential in your communication style. While absolutely everyone is either an emotional or physical personality, predominantly, we all have a percentage of the other within us. As an example, I myself am a 68% emotional sexual male personality. Therefore, 32% of my personality is physical. Most people are in the 80 to 20 percentile range, and dysfunction exists upwards from there. With these questionnaires, you will discover which one you are. Then do the suggestibility questionnaires to discover which type of communication you are, literal or inferential. Then fill them out for your loved one the way you think they would answer, and ask them to fill them out too. Score them and compare. This will totally reveal how well you actually know your partner, yourself, and your relationship with them. The loved one you fill out for might be spouse, your lover, your children, your friends, or even business relationships. With this groundbreaking knowledge, you'll be able to establish and sustain healthy, harmonious relationships with anyone like never before. Watch or listen to the EMP Personality Podcast series on Pry Open Your Third Eye, streaming everywhere that you podcast. Get the questionnaires at scottspacky.com/pryopen. Until next time, leave your third eye open. Full episodes, services, knowledge, and all you'll ever need on scottspacky.com and life-mind.com.
Ocean collide.